Westmont Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting for Wednesday, July 9, 2025. We have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Simpson?
Here.
Commissioner Thomas?
Here.
Commissioner Peterson's here. Commissioner Sharp is absent tonight. Commissioner Lynn is absent tonight. Commissioner Donahue?
Here.
And Chairperson Carmichael?
Here. We have a quorum. Would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And as long as everyone's standing, those who intend to testify tonight, please remain standing, raise your right hand, and swear that any and all testimony you give will be the complete truth. Thank you. Thank you. And you have to, everyone, a reminder to silence your phones. I'm looking for my phone. I think I left it in the car, so I don't have to silence mine. Second reminder that everyone who testifies has to sign in either out in the hallway or at the podium with their name and contact information. The next item is the approval of the minutes of the June 2025 special meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion, Simpson.
Second. Okay, motion Simpson and second. Discussion of the minutes. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson votes yes. Commissioner Donahue?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
And Chairperson Carmichael?
Yes. Next item is a review of our public hearing procedure. First, the applicant petitioner is introduced and makes his or her presentation. That's followed by staff, village staff comments. And next comes the public who can address the commission with questions and comments. And then finally, the commissioners can do the same, discuss and questions. And hopefully with each issue, we'll get to a vote. And as a reminder that the vote of this commission is recommendation only. The village board has the final say-so in these issues. Under new business, first we have public hearing PZC 008-2025, requests from TGP Innovations, a limited liability company doing business as That Golf Place, is the petitioner, and Prano Corporation, the owner, for the property at 212 East Chicago in Westmont for the following. First, special use permit to operate an indoor golf simulator facility amusement establishment in the B2 General Business District. And second, the zoning ordinance variance to the special condition that requires a 100-foot distance separation between an amusement establishment and a residential district. Who would represent that golf place this evening? Good evening.
Good evening. Can we start? Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. Good evening, staff, commissioners. My name is Sid, and this is my business partner, Pulkit. We are representing That Golf Place here at 212 East Chicago Ave here in Westmont. We're requesting a special use permit to operate a private indoor golf facility in the B2 General District. We're also looking for a variance request related to the rear setback, which is due to the original building layout. Our goal is to activate this vacant unit with something quiet, clean, fitness-focused that fully aligns with the intent of the zoning code and a good fit for the community. So for the agenda, we'll keep it short, pretty straightforward. We're going to talk about who we are, what our business is, and how it works. We'll walk through how we meet the zoning standards, explain how the variance request how we need the variance request, and to go over day-to-day operations, and show how we're supporting other businesses and how we give back to the community. Then we're happy to answer any questions that you guys may have. So a little bit about us. Both Pulkit and I, longtime avid golfers, who kind of built this business concept out of our own personal need. Like a lot of people around the area, Westmont, Burridge, the neighboring communities, we've struggled to find consistent, high-quality golf practice spaces, especially during the times of high summer heat, rain, and especially, obviously, the rough Illinois winters. We wanted a place to keep, our swing sharp, keep practicing indoors, and use the best technology that's out there as well. So Pulkit brings a strong background in operations, tech. He's worked directly on facility setups, the customer-facing platforms that we've built in, the day-to-day logistics piece. I come from a background in strategy and compliance, helping organizations kind of stay structured and scalable. We've handled everything at this moment by ourselves, the lease, the planning, zoning applications, and we're committed to staying hands-on the entire time. We'll be both managing the safety, the member experience, and the overall growth of the business in general. That golf place, TGP as well, is designed for working professionals who, like us, want a convenient, reliable, and a year-round place to practice and train. So in terms of the core business model, it's very simple. Every session is booked in advance. There's no walk-ins, there's no public events. Access is limited to members only with a smart keypad entry and 24/7 camera monitoring. We offer simulator bays, a stretching area, a comfortable and quiet environment to practice or train using our top-tier golf technology. Think about it like a private gym, but for golf. Because it's reservation-based, traffic is naturally predictable, staggered, and consistent. The space itself is sound-treated, focused on efficiency and coziness of the space itself. And it's not necessarily like a hangout space. It's for people who want kind of a professional setup that they might not be able to have in their own basements or access anywhere else to actually improve their game with no distractions. So let's just look over the project summary real quick. In terms of the space itself, it's 2,200 square feet. That used to be a dance studio a few years ago. The exterior structural changes to the building will not be happening. It'll be mostly inside. We'll be outfitting it with simulator bays, sound panels, a stretching zone, and a small retail counter/entrance area. On the outside, like south-facing with the windows, there'll be some small updates, wall-mounted sign, some graphics on the windows, but really no changes to the paints, lights, anything structural of that sort. And this is the space that we're looking for, and it's giving everything that we offer as well. The center itself includes fitness, tutoring, salons, and multiple restaurant businesses as well. And with our use brings that steady traffic that we mentioned, during those lower demand hours with no outdoor activity, minimal impact, and direct complementary aspect to the other businesses as well in that plaza. In terms of the actual unit itself, the site is clean and straightforward. There's one front entrance where there'll be a keypad outfitted so that people can punch in their codes when they book a reservation with us. There is a rear access, but it's not for members. It will be only me and him for maintenance, for any deliveries of that sort. Maybe some deliveries up front, but for the most part, it will be limited to us. The center itself is within a plaza that has about 90 square spaces for parking. There's two different ingress points from Chicago Avenue, giving easy access to the overall property. But the parking itself is open to all tenants, shared between all the different businesses that they're there. So there's no really reserved spots of that matter. Behind the building itself, the service alley and fence separating us from the residential homes across the way. But there's no sound, there's no foot traffic, no member activity in the back. So everything happens up front, indoors. Finally, I want to just touch up on our operations. We're open from 4 a.m. to midnight every single day, but realistically, about 90% of our traffic will happen from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Members book online. The simulator usage is capped because we know how many members we have, and there's no overflow. The reservation system keeps things predictable and low impact for everyone. The members themselves will be able to interact with the facility manager on site during some core weekday hours that we can adjust slightly based on booking, seasonality, and if we have coaching or instructors coming in for the day on the weekends. Thanks to the keypad access and camera monitoring, we're able to keep the facility secure, well managed, and even when a staff member is not physically present, clean and safe. Think of it kind of like a boutique gym model, Crunch Fitness, Planet Fitness. It's quiet, self-contained, and scheduled. But I'll hand it off to my business partner, Polkit. He'll go over the special use permit and the variance.
Thanks, Sid. I'll take it from here. So, Planning Zoning Committee, Sid and I come to you today on behalf of our business, That Golf Place, to humbly request the recommendation for the special use permit and the variance from that 100-foot buffer that exists between amusement and residential zones. So what we are proposing is a members-only golf training and fitness facility where all operations happen completely indoors. So like Sid said, all of our bookings and reservations are booking based, so we don't allow any walk-ins or any public events to happen outside of the property. And additionally, everything that we do is indoors. So what that means is the keypad access and the cameras for safety and tracking who actually comes in and accesses the facility, as well as thorough soundproofing everywhere inside the unit itself to limit noise pollution to the residential zones to the north, and also to our neighbors in the multi-tenant strip center to our east and west. We are confident that our low impact use fits in with the village's long-term goals, and I'll go into a little bit about why on the next few slides. So the second thing we are requesting is obviously the variance from the 100-foot residential buffer rule separating amusement and R4. So unfortunately, since we can't actually change the physical location of the unit as it relates to the residential zones, we designed the use to be completely self-contained and non-disruptive. So I believe that, back in the day in the 1970s when the zoning ordinance was updated, golf simulators didn't exist at that time, right? So when you think about traditional indoor amusement, you think about arcades or bowling alleys where sometimes kids or teenagers might queue outside of the actual unit and potentially cause a ruckus. And that's probably why this 100-foot residential buffer actually exists in the way the ordinance is in today. But we're here to kind of explain how we are different from an arcade or a bowling alley in that sense. So one of the reasons is obviously we're completely soundproofed inside. So there will be no noise pollution escaping our physical unit, especially not to the 90 or so feet to the residential zone to the north. Additionally, no outdoor music, no crowding is allowed anywhere on the premises, and that will be enforced within our members' terms and conditions, so we can validate that there are no disruptions to those neighborhoods around the area. Additionally, again, we're reservation only, so we will be able to tell who exactly is accessing the facility at what time at any given day. So this is very predictable. We'll be able to know who's there and what the amount of people there are going to look like. So all in all, our business model inherently respects nearby homes and nearby properties, and we look on bringing back new life to a unit that's been vacant for a very long time. So just want to quickly touch on compatibility and how we would seamlessly integrate into the community as a whole. So when Sid and I were going down the process of finding a lease for our business, we were thinking long and hard about, how do we want to integrate in the community, right? So to paint the picture a little bit, our unit is there on the screen signified by the red dot. So we face south, right? Behind the unit, so to the north, that's where the residential zone is. To the east and the west, we have other members or other tenants of this multi-tenant strip center, such as a fitness studio, there's a salon, there's a Mexican restaurant, and some tutoring and dance studio as well. To the south of the unit, so across the street on Chicago Avenue, we have Clarendon Hills residential zones comprising of single-family homes. So what's really neat about this location is we are literally right next to a Mexican restaurant, and we're less than 100 feet away from a Westmont staple at DJ's Bar and Grill, right? So our business inherently complements these other businesses that are nearby, right? Because a golfer will come for their session, they might get hungry after hitting balls for about 2 hours, so they might visit these other establishments in the area as well to get food or beverage. Additionally, we're bringing foot traffic to this unit, so our customers and our patrons are more likely to go shop at these retails or perhaps drop their kids off to the dance studio or the tutoring center while they go ahead and play some golf. But not only are we compatible with the other businesses in this center, but I believe that we also serve the residential zones around kind of as an amenity, right? So to my knowledge, in the village of Westmont, there is not another golf simulator business. And our presence would actually attract nearby residents to come to our facility because of the proximity in relation to their homes, which, who am I to say, but it may in turn increase property values as well if it's seen as an amenity. So real quick, last up, just want to wrap up a little bit about saying how we plan on giving back to the community. So a little bit of a backstory. I personally am a Westmont resident. I was born and raised in Burridge. I went to high school at Hinsdale Central. So from a young age, I was intertwined in this great community that we have here in Westmont and the surrounding areas. So that's why it's really important to Sid and I to actually give back to this community as well. And because of that, we've planned multiple programs that are a core function of our actual business plan that we plan to implement into business operations from day one of opening. So free monthly golf clinics for kids that can't afford golf lessons, or club recycling, supervised simulator time that we can provide to individuals that can't otherwise afford that. So part of our mission is reducing the financial barrier that unfortunately plagues the game of golf. You know, it's expensive to get clubs and book tee time. So reducing and breaking down those barriers to make the game more inclusive for everyone. And we plan on doing this by partnering up with PGA Tour affiliated charities such as First Tee, and down the line we would love to partner up with local and regional charities, and even partner up with school district, park district, to further identify students in need of our programs. So with all that being said, thank you all for this opportunity to request the approval for the special use permit and the variance. Again, just want to point out that we're not looking to bring something loud or flashy here to the village of Westmont. In fact, what we're trying to do is bring something that is quiet, low impact, and benefits the community as a whole. So we hope that you all support our request, and happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
And thank you. Staff comments, please?
Thank you, Chair. I don't have a lot to add here. They went over a lot of what was already in the staff report. I'm going to just explain some of the points that were raised or were in the staff report, some of the minutia of it. So the property itself is called Oak Tree Plaza. It's a strip center, multi-tenant building. With it being multi-tenant, an existing multi-tenant building, parking is not looked at for use moving in. Whatever they have for parking per the zoning code is what the parking is. It's grandfathered into the current code. The request that they're asking for the special use permit for the amusement establishment, you might be wondering why we consider this amusement establishment. It's because it doesn't fit neatly in any of our other definitions for other uses right now. It didn't fit neatly in the health club or spa use, which is more geared towards an LA Fitness or Lifetime Fitness type of facility that has a lot of amenities. So the best fit was the amusement establishment use, which is a special use in this case. Additionally, the requirement for the 100-foot distance to an R-zoned property or residentially zoned property is also something that is tagged along with that special use request, along with the special use standards. It's a condition placed on it that should meet that. They're also requesting a variance from that specific standard due to the location of the building being only 25 feet from the property. It's an existing condition. They talked a bit about the proposed hours. I believe in the staff report we had 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. on weekdays. It looks like they adjusted to 12 a.m. on weekdays as well.
Okay.
Just wanted to note that because of the change in the staff report. The use itself is classified as a service use. There's many service uses in this area, and restaurant uses and retail uses. Every other aspect of the zoning ordinance is being met here other than the variance request tonight. They provided the responses to the special use standards and the variance standards in your packets. I'm happy to go through each one. When looking at special uses, we look at things like traffic and safety. Obviously, they're not making a lot of changes to the exterior of the building. So looking at it, you should be looking at the standards within the zoning ordinance and the standards that are within your packet for making a decision. I'm open to any questions.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the commission on this issue? Seeing no one, let's go to the commissioners. Commissioner Thomas, would you like to start?
Sure. The first thing I thought of was noise. You know, and 25 instead of 100, and looked at the back, but I think you've explained that how you've taken care of that issue and make it a non-issue, and you're going to fit right there. In my opinion, anyway.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Peterson?
That was a very thorough presentation. That was great. I always like when something new comes into town, and I'm just curious though, how do you advertise for this? I mean, and it's not, your answer won't reflect on the voting, but I'm just curious, like, because it's brand new and there's none in the area, like, do you go to golf courses, or is there lists of golfers somewhere?
Sure. Happy to answer that. So it's multifaceted in terms of our internet presence and also foot traffic that we are actively physically sponsoring different places, events, doing some physical marketing as well at different organizations. So first, on the social media side, a lot of golf nowadays is very much publicized on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and with that comes ads. So we were able to, we obviously do some ad spend on the social media side, which help us gather how much people are interested in the business, and we've already started doing that process as we've informed, like, hey, we're in the permit process, but we'd love to gather interest in our business, potentially, giving us information on who's interested and who's ready to sign up for our membership when we're ready to announce prices and or when we're finished with this process, right? So that's the internet aspect, and that's been really strong for us, as millennials, Gen Zers ourselves, we excel in this aspect of the piece, and we do pretty well in terms of the content. So the other aspect, obviously, is physically marketing to the city of Westmont and the surrounding areas, right? So not only have we done canvassing in terms of us talking to all the businesses around the area and helping them understand what the business we do is, we've also asked them to potentially put up flyers, and then vice versa, asked us to put their flyers up when we do start operations as well. So we've talked to all the businesses, obviously, in our Oak Tree Plaza, but we'll also have gone down the downtown streets and talked to numerous different businesses that we think that we would easily, fit with. Revolution Physical Therapy, some of the spas, the cryo treatment place, and also there's Net Pickle, I think, in Westmont, the big pickleball facility as well. We're speaking with them to potentially, also have their flyers and advertising at our place and vice versa, ours at theirs. So those two pieces obviously have done most of our majority of advertisement. On terms of the education of the simulator technology itself, that's probably something that's newer to people, right? We are very much targeted towards golfers and the golfer accessibility itself, right? Once you get into the game of golf, it kind of like takes you in a little bit of an addiction, right? And you start going down rabbit holes and understanding that there's technology out there that really will enhance your level of sport to the max, right? And so on top of the social media advertising, on our physical marketing documents as well, there's a QR code that takes us directly to the website where we have a section where it explains all the technology if you're not already familiar with what we are offering. So that's a piece right there.
I always forget about social media because I'm not from that generation.
Sure.
But I'm very excited about this coming to town, and I agree. I think it'll bring people in, and I hope it works out.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Simpson?
Mine are just I'm looking at your layout. The only concern I have, how many bays or
Simulators?
stalls? Yeah, how many stalls simulated? Is it just the two?
It's
or-
just going to be the two on the west-facing side, and then fitness area on the east-facing side.
And what's the maximum number of people roughly that could go in one? Because I see like you have couches, so like, would you do a group of 4? Are you going to open it up for birthdays, things like that? So like,
No, it'll be per bay. It'll be a group of 4.
Okay.
Plus, maybe if we have people also using the fitness places, also another 4 on the other side as well.
got it. Okay, so maximum you're looking at, based on at least the layout, 12 people plus 2 guys possibly working there, 14 people? Okay. Just for staff, if they wanted to expand it, right, just because I'm looking at the dimensions, if they decided to double the bays and do it that way?
Yeah, they would have the ability to if they're approved. They could go up to 4 bays.
They go
Based
up
on
to
their
4
based
bays?
on their floor plan, that's what it looks like.
4 bays, and it's 4 per 16, so they're still at 16, right? And in commercial, it's 10 per 1,000 for
For
parking?
in this case, their parking's not concerned technically,
Okay.
because it's an existing multi-tenant building.
Got
So
it.
we don't take a look at parking.
Okay.
We kind of let the landlords hash it out based
Yeah.
on how many units they can occupy.
That's it, that's all I need. Looks good.
Thank you.
Mr. Donahue?
Cool concept, guys. Coming from a golfer, I know that the PGA Tour dreams fizzled out quite a while ago. So when I practice or when I play, there's usually not a cigar, beer, or bourbon that far out of reach. Are you guys planning on having it be like a BYOB place or any sort of alcohol, or no?
So it's going to be BYOF. You can bring your own food, soft drinks, maybe Gatorades and stuff, but no alcohol on the premises. It's included on our members' terms and conditions that there is no alcohol or any other paraphernalia allowed on the premises. Obviously, they're able to go before, after their tea time, schedule time to DJs, but we really want to make sure that the place is safe, and especially because of how golfers are, we want to make sure that they're enjoying themselves to a certain extent with the safety in mind.
Yeah, great. Cool concept. Good luck to you.
John, do you have another comment?
More question, your hours, help me understand that, because if it's members only, no walk-in, 4 AM seems really early, and midnight seems really late on a weekday. I'm just curious where, I don't usually see that with some of the competitors that are around here, so kind of give me some insight.
The
as to-
competitors that you might be thinking of are like Top Golf, X Golf, 5-Iron, that are 1 hour pay-by-pay places where you have to pay by the hour. In terms of the membership style, right, it's kind of geared like a gym or like a boutique gym facility, right? So there are people who are, intent with, putting their fitness and their golf together that would enjoy times that are before work itself or at late times as well. And we kind of offer that ability to do that because the space is so cozy and quiet and efficient. Members can easily just access the place. When they make a booking, they'll get a QR code, they get a key code, a 4-digit key code, type it in, and they're able to access the space, be in and out by the time, the main traffic comes outside of those core hours.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Do you have security cameras inside? Can you monitor, if neither of you are there at the time, can you monitor from?
Remotely, yes. So we'll have cameras inside, outfitted at every single bay, in the fitness area, within the entrance, and also exterior cameras pointing at the entrances itself, to make sure that we can monitor it remotely at any given time.
And is this a franchise?
No, but
It's
we're
not-
not reinventing the wheel either. There's businesses like this out there that we want to bring to Westmont.
And you mentioned having instructors. Would these instructors be employees of yours or contractors? How would that work?
So you can call them partners, actually. So they'll be actually using our space in terms of paying us to a certain extent for their members. So they'll themselves be a member of our facility itself, have a specific coaching membership, right? So when they teach our members, it'll be included. Their fees, they'll figure it out with our members in terms of how their hourly works, and they'll pay them directly. When coaches bring external members through the facility as their guests, they will have to pay us a certain amount of money towards the credit of using the simulator space for those external members as well.
That's very interesting. Thank think it sounds like something could really fly here in Westmont. Any other commissioners' comments or questions? Seeing none.
Just one comment.
Sure.
And that is, in the ordinance approving this, assuming the village board does approve it, would like to add a condition based on some of the discussions that no alcohol can be brought in and consumed or sold on the premises, and that the back door shall not be accessible by members, only for use by owners, just to avoid people going out and smoking in the back alley near the residences or something like that. Is that okay?
Yes.
Any objection from the commissioners to those? Okay.
Okay, thank you. And for those of you who don't know, this is John Zemanak, who's a village attorney. So under public hearing PZC 082025, Chair would entertain a motion to approve, first, a special use permit to operate an indoor golf simulator facility amusement establishment in the B2 General Business District. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Simpson, yes. And a second?
Second, Donahue.
Donahue. Discussion?
John, would this be then an amended motion?
Nope, just the motion as approved. I just made a comment about the ordinance.
Okay.
But those weren't conditions
Okay.
necessarily recommended by the PZC.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Peterson votes yes. Commissioner Donahue?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Chairperson Carmichael?
Yes. And secondly, a zoning ordinance variance to the special condition that requires a 100-foot distance separation between an amusement establishment and a residential district.
Motion Simpson?
I have a motion, Simpson, to approve.
Second. Thomas.
And, second, Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Donahue?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson votes yes. Chairperson Carmichael?
Absolutely, yes. Okay, there you have it, gentlemen. Staff will notify you when you're scheduled to appear before the village board. And
July
welcome to
24th.
Westmont, and good luck.
Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it.
Certainly. Next item under new business is public hearing, PZC 0102025, a request from Michael Schaefer and Siobhan Niziolik for the property at 102 West Naperville Road in Westmont for the following. A zoning ordinance variance to the
Chair
maximum lot
Carmichael,
coverage.
if I can interject, the next case on the agenda is PCC 009-2025
I
for,
apologize. I skipped that whole thing under thank you, Adam. 0092025, a request from Justin and Natalie Crone for the property at 232 East Des Moines in Westmont for the following. A zoning ordinance variance to the maximum lot coverage in the R3 single-family detached residence district for a residential pool. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you all for having me. Thank you all for all your time. I guess I didn't realize how much goes into being on a committee like this until I had to go through it myself, so I appreciate all you guys do for the community. So I'll jump right in. So I'm sorry I'm here alone. The whole plan was to come as a family, but we're a super busy family. I actually had to drop off my son at a game I should be coaching at Veterans Park right now, and my wife and daughter are coming back from a dance competition. But that's really why we're here, right? We're such an active family. We love Westmont, and we want to just add to that in where we are with our busy lives to try and really enjoy more time with the kids. So a little history for us, our story in Westmont. We've lived here since 2008. Actually, our first property was right down the street. We lived in a 1924 built home on 136 South Lincoln. I used to joke on Sundays that you could hear the church bells and smell Uncle Bub, so it almost felt like you were in heaven. But we lived there for a while, lived there for almost 10 years. And really the only thing that put us out of there is, again, our family started growing. My son is 11, my daughter's 9. She was actually born in the house. I always joke, on purpose. So we really wanted to stay there, did everything we could to stay there. We wanted it to be our forever home. But had some similar issues there with it was a small home, needed to add to it. Lot coverage became an issue. It'd be super expensive to add to it. So instead we decided to do what a lot of people do with their starter home and just move somewhere else. But we wanted to stay in the community. We didn't go far, as you can see, right? We're at 232 East Des Moines at this point. But again, we love our home. We already have invested in it. We love the community. Nice residential district with lots of great families, lots of great friends on the street. And we want to stay, right? And again, we want to just add to our enjoyment of the home. In 2020, we did some work on the home to improve the landscaping in the backyard. And we really love to live outside. We're outside a lot. Instead of we have a covered patio back there. And at the time, we were very conscious of lot coverage then as well. We had to think about, okay, well, the house I bought, as you'll see in a few slides, has a huge garage, so it has a lot of lot coverage just by itself, right, the actual house. So we really had to be creative in what we wanted to do in the backyard and made a nice, beautiful space back there, and just want to keep on investing and keep on, making our home better for us, better for our lifestyle. Like I said, we're busy. My wife's, when she's not at work, she's working with the school on the PTO. My daughter's constantly dancing. I'm constantly coaching, so we don't get a lot of time, and so a pool at home would be a great use for our family and our kids, just to sort of get home from football practice, throw off the pads and jump in the pool. We don't get to spend a lot of quality time together. We're always toting kids around and passing ships in the night. So that's a little bit about just background on us. I'm sure Scott will clean up anything I get wrong here. But I wanted to give you the information about what we're specifically requesting today, right? So we're proposing to add about 555 square foot of pool, with 348 square foot of, in the plant it says concrete, but certainly open to anything else, as an apron around the pool, as well as a small equipment pad to keep filters, stuff like that, which actually brings our impervious surface area up to 38 and 3/4. And as you probably know, right, the village does allow up to 40, but it's anything over 35 has to get special approval. And when we went to get that administrative approval in lieu of a variance, is when we found out that our property is not. It's in a sub-watershed that contains a low depression area, right? So we've been there since 2018. Our personal property hasn't really experienced much. I mean, when some of these crazy heavy rains, obviously there's pooling of water in different parts of properties around the area, but but we have not experienced that, and so for that reason, in lieu of the administrative approval, we're coming here to ask for a variance request on the lot coverage. So in preparation for this, I wanted to actually show you my property, so that's what the pie chart represents, and then also just wanted to compare. And I know there's been a lot of conversation about lot coverage in Westmont, and there's another following me talking about lot coverage as well. So I was advised maybe think about, hey, what else is around, right? What I could find, Clarendon Hills, 55%, Hinsdale 50%. There's no really specific limit that I could find for Downers. They just have a building limit, which is interesting, of like 32% for the building. And I think DuPage, same thing. It's sort of a building limit is what I have found. I could be wrong. Scott might clean me up if I'm wrong, but just wanted to include that in here as reference and my request compared to maybe other neighboring towns. So the building itself, like I mentioned earlier, takes up about 23% of the house, of the lot coverage. We've got a really big, the guy that owned the house before me, John knows him, was a bit of a renter. So actually, even including the day I bought the house, he still had 4 cars in the garage. So with a double deep 4-car garage, which we don't use the space as much as he did, but that took up a lot of space. There was an existing patio, but the current patio takes up about 6% of the space, and that includes sort of it's a covered patio, so there's pavers underneath it. Half of it's covered. The other half is open air. Our driveway takes up 3%. A little bit of sidewalk and stuff like that takes up 1%. And then that shaded area in green is the proposed space that it says pool, but proposed pool and everything with it. So it would also be the concrete pad, the apron, and everything. I don't think we need to. I just included this as reference. I wanted to put it at the back, but this actually is the what I went and looked up from some of the neighboring towns. I meant to make these hyperlinks, but they're not. But that's okay. So next, I wanted to just sort of talk about sort of our property, right, and the surrounding areas, right. So we live in a entirely residential area, right. There's not really any parking lots to be spoken of or anything like that. So our entire block and most of the neighboring blocks, other than up the block, there's a parking lot at the mosque, and that's about it. But we're all pretty much green space, right? A lot of different lot sizes by us. We've got, like, my neighbor right to the back, who's actually here today. It's got a huge lot, right? That you can see that my property is the circled one, obviously. But behind me, you can see you got two very big lots with very low lot coverage. But you sort of have a dichotomy of like smaller lots and bigger lots. So I know some people in this area run into lot coverage issues a lot, especially those new homes across the street on Oak. Right? They have really, you can see those have really small yards. But the point I'm trying to make here is the block itself is pretty, again, pretty impervious, right? We've got a lot of ground cover, not a lot of, again, no parking lots, things like that. Off-screen, what you don't see, just northeast is a retention pond, right? That's designed to, do just what lot coverage is trying to do as well. And that's water runoff goes to the right place, doesn't go into our basements, into our homes, into our living rooms, right? And I've been there, I don't know, 7 years. I think there was a time where that reservoir would get a little bit of water, but I think the village has done so much work over there. I haven't seen it with more than an inch or two of water in years. But again, that's right off screen, right? That's right about to the northeast of what's on screen here. Let's see, I think that's kind of all I wanted to really touch on that slide. And I've talked to a lot of my neighbors, but some of them are here today so they can speak for themselves. But so I won't comment on what any of the neighbors think, because again, they're here and they can comment themselves. And again, just in closing, kind of, just wanted to show, how much we love to entertain and be outdoors, and we're so busy, we're everywhere, and, we really get a lot of use out of that back door space that you can see. They did a great job back there, and, we like to use it, and the kids love to just be outside and free spirits, and again, we just want to kind of add and stay under the 40%, and which actually, I didn't mention that was a very conscious decision as well, right? When I went into this whole thing, I was under the impression that, 40% would be something that we could do. There just had to be, some engineering review, and so I wanted to make sure the contractor came in with all these plans, and I wanted to make sure I stayed under 40, and I didn't want to be coming here asking for, not that that's not appropriate, but I didn't want to be coming, I specifically did want to keep it to, the 40 that we're at today. So anyway, thanks for the time. That's really all I had prepared.
Okay, thank you. Staff.
Thank you, Chair. Before we get into the specific case, I am going to give some background just on lot coverage in general, because we have new commissioners here who weren't along for the ride for a lot of the amendments that were made for lot coverage. So bear with me while I go through some of the text amendments and the definitions for lot coverage. So lot coverage represents the percentage of a lot's area occupied by building, structure, and permanent hardscape. So that includes driveways, the building itself, patios, graveled areas. All of that is considered hardscape and is considered lot coverage when we do these calculations, regardless of the material used. So if you use a permeable paver, it's the same as concrete in our zoning ordinance. So what that means in the R3 district where this property is located, it's our single family detached zoning district. The maximum in that district is 35%. If you flip that around, 65% of the property should be landscaping, is one way to look at it, with the hope of it being green space. Traditionally, lot coverage in the zoning world was used to prevent overdevelopment of particular properties, and normally single-family properties, and to improve the landscaping in those areas as an aesthetic appeal for single-family homes. However, in Westmont, lot coverage has slowly evolved into a tool for mitigating stormwater and runoff and flooding that has occurred in the village, as well as some of those aesthetic concerns. Lot coverage, as I said, is not the same as impervious surface. Impervious surface is related to an engineering term. Lot coverage is that definition I spoke on earlier. So those are two different things. They're very similar. We get the question a lot from residents and contractors what the difference is. Lot coverage is dictated by the zoning code. Impervious surface is dictated by the engineering requirements. So back in 2010, in Westmont, following some pretty severe flooding events that we had within the village actually sent, I think it was Christopher Burke did a study, an engineering study on how to improve the flooding that was taking place and stormwater runoff in general. After that study happened and some draft studies happened with it, the village took the opportunity to adjust the total permitted lot coverage at that time. So previous to 2010, it was capped at 40% for total lot coverage. After this text amendment, it was reduced to 35%. We saw after 2010, we had a few variance requests, a handful of variance requests for lot coverage after that, that were in between that 35 and 40% number. So in 2011, we approved, or the village approved, a second text amendment. That is what Justin was referring to with our administrative approval process for lot coverages that fall between 35 and 40%. The lot coverage that falls between that can be administratively approved by staff, as in our engineer on staff. The reason the engineer looks at it is because it's dictated on a few things. The property can't be located in a designated building moratorium area. So at that time, we had a few moratorium areas that didn't allow development to happen. Some of them that I can remember off the top of my head was Blackhawk, had a moratorium area. Another item that we look at for, the engineer looks at is known drainage problem zones. That is the sub-basin areas that are designated by the engineer based on the contours of the land. A sub-basin area is an area that has a low depressional area where water pools at the bottom. In this case, this particular property is located in one of those sub-basin areas, and it pools right around that intersection on, I think it's Des Moines and Oak, is where that's located. Additionally, the engineer looks at if the property is located in a floodplain, or I already said this, the sub-basin area. So this allowed staff basically to have some flexibility at the staff level to make the changes, because we were getting a lot of requests for it. But it still kept them within a guardrail for the flooding issues and the runoff issues. That particular piece is still in our code today for administrative approvals. The last text amendment that we had was in 2021. This text amendment revised the definition of lot coverage. So lot coverage used to allow for permeable pavers and decks to be counted at 50% of total lot coverage. So if you had a 200 square foot permeable paver patio, for lot coverage purposes, we cut that in half. We just view it as 100 square feet of lot coverage. That particular section was removed from the definition because of the ability to actually determine what was being placed on the property in the future. It put a lot of burden on staff at the time to figure out, based on the plat survey, what was being changed and what was staying. So that was removed in 2021, and the definition, as I've already stated, is now basically the hardscape improvements only, and it's viewed at a 1-to-1. So your 200 square foot patio, regardless of its material use, is viewed as a 200 square foot patio now for lot coverage purposes. Now getting back into the case at hand, this particular property at 232 East Des Moines, the property itself is located in one of those sub-basin areas. So the engineer was not able to administratively approve this. So the next step for them to get approval would be to come to ask for a variance. And we base those variances on the standards within the code, on the variance standards that are within your staff report as well. The property went through several rounds of additions, but in 1980s, when the initial building was built, they had two significant additions in 2005 and 2020. One of those was the overhang, I believe, for the patio. The property itself is located in primarily a single family district and has a few parks near it. Veterans Park is the big one that we know. The surrounding properties most of them, because of the age of those properties, are likely over our permitted lot coverage. And that's the case for a lot of properties in our downtown single-family areas, because that's the oldest part of town. And they largely were under the old regulations when they built those houses, and sometimes they didn't have the regulations at all when the houses were built. So the petitioner is asking for what is a 555 square foot in-ground swimming pool with a 3-foot wide walkway around it, with an approximate size of 903 square feet in additional lot coverage being proposed. The current lot coverage on the property is approximately 33.87%, and this would raise it to about 39%, keeping it under that 40%. But still exceeding the maximum that is permitted on this property because of the zoning district and being located in that sub-basin area. The pool itself meets all other zoning regulations for setbacks. The pool itself has not been reviewed by the building department or fire department for the other aspects of what's required for a pool. Some of the documents, obviously, we have requirements for fencing and things like that. We had no issues with the fencing that was being proposed or anything for zoning purposes. Like I said, a lot of this is intertwined with engineering, so we did ask our engineer to review this prior to coming to planning and zoning. He provided our consultant, he's a consultant engineer, he provided general comments and feedback on his review of this particular property and what they're proposing, and I believe Justin's talked to him a few times as well. The takeaways that we received from him is that there will be a minimal impact. Minimal impact doesn't mean zero impact for runoff purposes, but there's a minimal impact based on our engineer's review. And then he also provided some recommendations regarding on either taking out some lot coverage, such as the driveway, and replacing it with some permeable surface type, or just removing it entirely to a degree, or installation of some type of mitigation system like a dry well to mitigate some of the minimal impact from the stormwater runoff. Staff is not recommending anything with our review. It would be up to the commission if they want to require anything related to that, but this time staff's not requiring it or recommending it.
Okay, thank you. Who from the public would like to address the commission on this? Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name's John Shorney. I'm here with my wife Sandy and Justin's neighbor. I live at 236 East Des Moines. I'm the property
John,
where
did
everything.
Did you sign in?
I signed in out
Good.
there. I'll
Thank
sign
you.
in here also
Thank
if you want me.
No,
to.
you don't have to.
I'm located at the property where everything percolates. So I'm on the corner of Oak and Des Moines, down there. I've got a wet spot on the front of my house now that we're having issues with on the Oak side that I haven't been able to cut in probably about a month and a half, simply because of some runoff and things. So I'm down the hill on both sides.
So is that the southeast corner of your lot? Your southeast
Yeah, it
corner?
would be right next to the driveway. The culvert there isn't working well, so I've already spoke with Public Works and so forth in regards to it, and I've put a 311 in August of 24 in regards to another area. We're having a lot of water issues with the runoff coming down the road and the street, and possibly from the neighbors and so forth all around, because it all runs down. We're a little bit lower than anybody else. So our concern isn't necessary. We had a pool for 17 years. We had a round pool, above ground pool, 52 inches high. So we didn't need a fence or anything like that. My concern is that everything else is going to there's nowhere else for any of this water necessarily to percolate or to go, especially since they're going to also have to include a fence and more hardscape because of an in-ground pool. And that I want to make sure that we're not going to have any more issues. And I have nothing against the neighbors having a pool, enjoying themselves. We've been great neighbors since they moved in 7 years ago, I think it is, or whatever. We sit and we'll talk all the time in between yards. We have no issues or anything like that. But it's the water issue that I'm really concerned with. We're lower than the neighbor to the north. We're lower than they are where their driveway is, so things kind of sit in the yard. I've got 5 grandkids. We love to play in the side yard, do stuff. There's times I get some, with a heavy rain, there's times I can't cut the grass for probably a week and a half, 2 weeks or so forth, just simply because of the water, and that's just because of the topography from everything in that yard. We've been there 22 years. We haven't made any improvements or anything. We filled everything in where the pool was and took care of that. But our biggest concern, again, is the runoff and where it's all going to sit. Because right now, in between our trees that we have that are on Des Moines Street, I've got water that comes all the way up to my landscape beds. It's got nowhere to go. It can't flow in the culvert, can't flow there. Public Works had done some work years ago on it, but the restoration that had been done by some of the companies that did some of the work, the gas work, and some of the others, it hasn't been done either correctly or it's failed. So now, as I said, in between our two locust trees, we've got water that comes from the street, across the sidewalk, all the way up. I mean, I felt bad. Last year, Justin and Natalie had a party. One of their neighbors got out and white pants and right down into the water. It was about a foot high in the culvert there on the side, on the ditch. So that's our concern. Nothing against the pool, nothing against whatever they want to do, that's fine. It's just the water runoff, especially as you're saying, in that low area. And I think, a little bit more than 3%. If we can't figure out if we're going approximately with the size, with drones and everything else, pictures that we have, we should be able to know and specify exactly what that coverage is on properties. So that's my concern. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have already signed up in the...
Oh, and there am I?
That's good.
Okay.
Anyone else? Good evening.
I am also one of Justin's neighbors, Dan Siebold. Not one of the people in the immediately affected areas. I'm actually farther down Des Moines, on the corner of Wilmette and Des Moines.
Okay.
I just had a couple of questions based on your report here, Scott. So the first question was, you said a lot of the properties already in the area are over 40%. What do you constitute as the area? I'm just curious because I live in the area, so.
I was specifically referring to the downtown as a whole.
Okay, so all right.
Which is generally south of Naperville,
right.
north.
I was curious if
55th.
If that neighborhood, if that thought process had been run through.
Yeah, and I'll say it's not based on staff level studies or anything like that. It's based on the requests we get and the permits we see.
And then my second question was, would taking out lot coverage do as much as installing a mitigation effort? So obviously, water runoff is one of the biggest issues that I think most of the people are concerned about. And I don't understand all the dynamics of lot coverage versus open area, how much of that soaks in, how much of it runs off. Would a mitigation effort be more sufficient than removing lot coverage?
I'm not at liberty to specifically answer that, only because I'm not an engineer.
Sure.
When our engineer looks at it, when he gave his recommendation, I'm sure he looked at both of those, and that's probably why he gave either or recommendations if it's approved. Certainly, if we move forward with any approvals or anything like that, we'd have our engineer look into it as well.
Is that report available to, I'm guessing it's available to Justin maybe?
The report it's just comments. It was in the staff report, but available on the website.
Okay. And then the only other question I have is, again, I like Justin. We spend time on that back patio sometimes with him. Great guy. Nobody wants to be that neighbor, but is there any sort of mitigation for liability outside of pursuing something in court should there be a water issue for one of the neighbors?
I would defer that to my attorney. Did you catch that?
So I think that everybody would want to avoid having to go to court should, worst case scenario happen where they build the pool, Chorney's basement floods, right? So is it possible to work out some sort of agreement with Justin without going through the board to do that, or going through some sort of legal action?
You guys can certainly discuss it amongst yourselves and try and reach an agreement. If you feel that despite the fact that a variance is granted, they've built to what is allowed pursuant to the variance and you're still having water issues, that then becomes a private issue between neighbors that you can take care of either through negotiated resolution or if necessary court action. But yeah, as far as like village liability, if the village has a lot coverage standard and here is seeking to enforce it, but is willing to allow a slight overage pursuant to a variance, then there should not be any liability on the village for doing so.
Yeah, that answers my
Better
question. So.
than me, my
Yeah,
answer. So.
yeah, no, absolutely. So, but in general though, I'm in favor of this. I just want to make sure that everybody around Justin is protected. So,
You did get completely signed in there, right?
yeah, I didn't sign in here. I signed in at the front.
Real
I don't
fine?
know.
Okay.
I was looking at it. It looks
Just
the
gotta-
same. So I
Gotta make sure. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, let's go to the commissioners. Commissioner Peterson, you want to start?
Well, I initially didn't see, when I read the packet, didn't see any issues. Obviously there is. My concern though, Mr. Chorney, is like, have you contacted the village and they haven't been able to remedy what the issues are?
Yeah. They tried, but it just hasn't.
Nothing.
Years ago, when Mr. Bath was still the superintendent,
Yeah.
and they changed the area over there on Des Moines, and they filled in the ditch, and they put riprap in there. Don't get
Yeah,
involved.
you need to come to the podium to respond to that.
Absolutely. When it was addressed years ago, the village put some riprap, they dug up the ditch, dug it up, put some riprap in or so forth, covered it with black dirt and some sod. It tended to help quite a bit or so forth, but the pipe was exposed coming from the culvert from Justin's driveway. But the water still just kind of sits in that area along the sidewalk and everything. There's 3 trees in the middle of the ditch that were planted 50, 60 years ago or so forth, or 40 years ago, whatever they are. So the water has to divert somewhere, and it diverts into my yard. And then it diverts into my yard, doesn't go into the street, sits there in that area in between there. Some will eventually drain down to the beehive that's in the very corner, but then that's eroding the yard that's by my, the part of my yard that's by my sidewalk, right there on the corner of Oak and Des Moines. So yes, and as a matter of fact, yes, the 311 was put in on August 24th, or August 4th of 2024. So I've spoken directly. I work for the Park District, so I see the public works guys all the time.
Yeah.
And I've spoken with a few of them in regards to some of these or so forth. So there's some ideas and some thoughts. They tell me that it hasn't been forgotten about, but I just don't want to see any more water coming up and getting into the yard and ruining it. I love my yard. I like to cut my grass twice a week. I take care of the parkway. I take care of, we have beautiful flowers. My wife does a great job. There's times we can't even be I can't cut that parkway for weeks. Even sometimes we have enough heavy rains in the wet spring or so forth for a month.
I feel so bad for you.
So,
That's such
I mean, it's gotten to that point. So I don't think it's negligence. I just think there's got to be something done. And if we're going to take ground away, the water can percolate or so forth. Then I think this 3% isn't necessarily true in regards to that. It may be on paper, but you come and see a heavy rain or something like that, and you see where it's going to run. The water just sits on our sidewalk after a heavy rain. So, and then mosquitoes, other issues, people falling, people going through it, and things like that. So, my concern isn't for anything else besides just the water mitigation, taking care of it. It needs to be addressed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I comment on that?
Certainly.
Just to be clear, I think John's mentioned it a few times, the bulk of the pooling is in the easement, not on his property, right? Between the sidewalk and it can at times, absolutely. We had a party last year on it was around, it was actually for the Kentucky Derby, right? Where we were celebrating a celebration of life for somebody. And that was a day that somebody did absolutely trip and fall into, again, the easement, right? Where it is a ditch, right? Sort of almost somehow meant to capture water. But John's right, when there's tons of rain, right? It can seep up. That sidewalk can often be covered for a couple of days there. Dan has the same issue by his house. It's been it's been a bugaboo for a while, lots of rain. But again, both sidewalks and easements is where the bulk of the water pools. Not to take away anything else that John said. I mean, about his yard, I believe all of that, yeah, for sure. I just wanted to point that out.
Now, I know I saw on the plans that you're going to have a automatic pool cover.
Yeah,
So when that is extended and if it's raining out, does any of that rain leak into the pool or totally is, I don't,
Yeah, I don't know the exact dimension of the recess of that. It's not completely like impervious either, right? So it can absolutely, I mean, 555 square foot of this could absolutely probably capture 3 to 6 inches of rainwater, right? I mean, that's not the same as the ground doing it, but on a normal rain, yeah, it would go into the pool.
well, that,
Heavy duty rain for days and days, then it would probably eventually go over the pool. And I think the issue there would probably more be the ground absorption, right? Because you're taking away ground, right? I think, and that's why the recommendation around doing a dry well we're not opposed to. That's what it's called, right? Correct. Yeah, we're absolutely not opposed to that at all.
okay, I have no other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Simpson?
I did the numbers real quick. I think if my math is right, and this is kind of what I'm missing here on the lot coverage area, if they were to not add the pool, if they were to just add the sidewalk, they'd be under the 35% lot coverage, right?
When you say the sidewalk,
Or what they're putting around the pool. Because I'm trying to back out of it by adding the 903 square feet.
I
and
don't
then
know without
subtract the
pulling out my
550.
calculator.
Okay.
So they have that, and then they have the pool equipment pad as well to
Okay.
the side of the house.
All right, but I'm looking at about 60% of what's getting added is the pool itself, of what's holding the water. And so the only concern I have is exactly kind of what was referenced here is the covering, right? Because if you think on like an above ground pool, when you have those blue solar, plastic ones, the water, if it rains, it's going in the pool. So in my mind, it's not impervious, but it is, because it's not the same as having concrete there. He's got something collecting the rainwater, and if we have a 1 in a 100-year flood, there's nothing that really we can do to begin with that. Especially if he'd be able to get 35%. I think a pool, for the most part, would be better at holding more water than probably permeable pavers, even if we said something like that. I just don't think it'll hold that. But I don't have an issue with it, provided with the drywall. I think that's a good move. It sounds like if the neighbors didn't appear, I probably would have said, hey, I think that'll hold it. But if this was the concern, and I remember Mayor Gunther, this was the exact issue, him coming in of when there was a flood, and I think that's important to keep in mind. That's probably the worst thing to deal with as a homeowner. I've had that. It's a nightmare to deal with. Everything gets ruined, and it's just frustrating for neighbors. So I think a drywall would be a great item to add in, but I also have no issue with him adding the amount, because in reality, the additional going over the 35 is effectively the pool, and that's holding water. The only concern I have in what was just spoken about is if you have the automated pool cover, question I have is it going to be over grade, meaning is it going to be over the concrete, or is it going to be below it to where the water falls into the pool?
Yeah.
Right? So like if you do over, if there's 2 of these and it's over, then that water is going to run off to the neighbors and spill off. If the motor is below that and goes over the pool, then there's no issue, because in my mind, if it spills over, it's still spilling over in the pool, even if there's a tarp.
My understanding is, obviously it needs to have a channel, right? For
Yeah.
the cover to go. So my understanding would be that they decide where to place the channel, right? And it would be, have to be at least probably this far down, because you want to have, it unrolls.
Right.
It unrolls through the channel. It doesn't go on top of the pool. The other option we had for a cover, because you need to do a cover for no other reason than safety, but also just I'm too busy to go out there and clean the pool every other day. That cover goes on top and snaps and stuff like that, where you would kind of have an issue you're talking about. But this one is a channel that goes underneath. I don't know the specifics. I know they're in the plan somewhere. They may or may not be, actually. That detail might not be in there, but I can find out. And
The one you're talking about that snaps, that's the one at like winter time when you're winterizing the pool.
yeah, but some people use it actually as their main cover too, especially if they're like going on vacation or something like that.
Sure.
But yes, that's like a winterized cover, and this is the same. This was this 2 functions, one cover. It's the daily cover, and then also the winterizing cover. It sits low. I don't know exactly how low. I don't know if it's 2 inches, 6 inches, 4 inches. I'm not sure, and if we have any flexibility there, I'm willing to make it as low as it needs to be.
The only thing I would say just to the fellow commissioners, the only thing I would modify on this is just, I think it's great. I think you should do it. I think the photos are great. I want to obviously have happy neighbors as well, and there's a concern. And if you're willing to do the dry well, we can't control a 1 in a 100-year flood. So if we have a terrible rain, I don't blame you or this on that. But It's an added precaution. It sounds like he has an existing issue, which will at least, at the very least, help. But one addition I'd want to see on it is that if you were to fill the pool, like get rid of it, fill it with concrete, or if you were to remove it, that the variance goes back to the original amount. So as long as it's a pool, no issue. But if a new owner, let's say you move away, and a new owner comes in and says, I don't want a pool, and fills it in and wants to make it patio space, then they shouldn't be allowed to do that, because that is going to exacerbate the problem that we're trying to remedy here.
That makes sense.
That would be my only suggestion.
Interesting. You noting that, Scott?
Noted, yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Donahue?
Yeah, I don't really have a question or much to add. I do know that, just being somewhat familiar with in-ground pools, they do make covers that are permeable where water can go through to keep out leaves and pine needles and whatever else. I mean, that might be another added thing that you take into consideration, you know, if you were to do that, not make a cover that can't, you know, absorb water underneath into the pool. But yeah, you know, like Commissioner Simpson said, I think that, you know, no one likes flooding, but is an added 2 or 3% on your property going to, you know, cause significant, you know, damage to neighboring properties? I'm not an engineer, but I would hope not. Certainly respect the people coming in and you know, giving their opinions, but I don't have any questions outside of that. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomas?
I agree with fellow commissioners about the future owner removing the pool, that it should go back. The coverage, lot coverage should go back to before. Again, I don't think that the additional, that you're, I don't think it'll be that big of a, make that big of a difference, and I support your request. But I do understand the neighbors' concern, because they already have water. And just as long as it's done right and does not overly affect everything else, I support it.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
All right. Yeah, the consulting engineer's recommendation, first of all, you know, using the word minimal, which is certainly an arguable term, but if, and it sounds like you are willing, and I would certainly not make a recommendation for this unless you were willing to construct a dry well to help mitigate the extra overage.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what it takes, and also gives peace of mind to, you know, like John said, good neighbors, that absolutely would do that. The other recommendation on the permeable driveway, I don't think makes sense. Mike's driveway, actually, at the bottom of the driveway is a storm drain, so I don't know that would actually help, but the dry well, I would absolutely entertain if it had to be a condition.
Yeah, and I think our experience with permeable pavers have been, over the years, they fill in, and their effectiveness
Yeah, right.
goes down.
I think it would be
over time.
worse
So
to do that, I think.
But the dry well for sure, and if you're willing to do that as part of the project, I would support it.
Okay.
John, did you have a comment?
No.
Okay. Given that, then under public hearing 0092025, do I have a motion to approve zoning ordinance variance to the max lot coverage in the R3 single-family detached residence district for a residential pool?
Chair, if I make that,
Sir.
can I make the motion to amend, to modify the motion to include the, if it's filled in, or, I don't want to say not used, because if there's a use for whatever reason, but if it's filled in or removed, that the variance no longer remains. I don't know, Council, what?
This is why we have village engineer, village attorney here.
That if the swimming pool ceases to be used as a swimming pool and is filled in or removed, then the variance is extinguished automatically.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
That can be part of the motion if,
If they came to fill it in, if they filled it in, they'd have to come back through you guys, right?
So I would assume, and I'm speaking at the level of staff, how it would operate is if the property was sold, new property owner came in, you would have to make them aware of that particular condition. So if they came in for a permit for patio, instead of a pool there, we would deny it because of the ordinance attached to it if it's approved in that manner. We record?
Well, you're talking about additional improvements on top of the pool, like in addition to the pool.
Correct. I think Simpson's concern is that if the pool's removed, then the new owner could just put a patio somewhere else
Up to
at the same size
up to
because of the lot
maximum
coverage
allowed
variance.
by the variance.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
I just want to make sure that the new owner, this isn't directed at you, but
No,
the
I get it.
neighbors are here,
You're
and it
protecting
sounds
the
like everyone's been a long-term neighbor. So someone comes in and says, I'm not going to use this pool, I don't know how to swim, I don't know what to do, I'm going to fill this in with concrete, and basically the whole thing now is a deck. You know, the concept is a pool is going to hold water. A filled in with concrete deck is not, or a filled in pool with concrete will not. Or if they take it out for whatever reason, they keep all the other items. Like, you don't get to do that if this is all part of having the pool. So I just want to make sure that that's what the modification is. And then obviously it takes away an issue. And I think if you're offering to do the drywall, I think we put that in here and put that that's agreed by the petitioner as well, so that the council knows that, you know, he had offered to do it. And I think that's a reasonable request, and I think that addresses the concerns.
So that becomes part of the motion.
Yeah, so that would be, the motion would include a requirement for installation of a dry well per the engineer's recommendation, and then a requirement for how would you state that? The pool.
Extinguishment of a variance if the
Yeah,
pool is filled in or.
Filled in with an impervious surface.
Or removed.
Or removed.
So I'd make that motion, Chairman.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, Donahue.
Okay, second Donahue.
Who made the motion?
Simpson motion,
Oh.
Donahue second. Discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Donahue?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson votes yes. Chairperson Carmichael?
Yes. Okay, sir, you have our recommendation, and again, staff will notify you when you can appear before the village board. Good evening. Okay, Mr. Schaefer, I apologize for the previous, under PZC 0102025, we have a request from Michael Schaefer and Siobhan Niziolek for the property at 102 West Naperville Road in Westmont for the following. The zoning ordinance variance to the maximum lot coverage in the R3 Single Family Detached Residence District for a patio and walkways. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for seeing us tonight. I feel really, really small because my PowerPoint skills are nowhere near the last two presentations. But as mentioned, my name is Mike Schaefer. I live at 102 West Naperville Road. My wife and I just moved to Westmont 5 months ago, so we're brand newbies to the area. We moved from the city. We moved into a beautiful home, minus backyard that is lacking livable space. So our request is a little unique, but we're requesting a variance to increase lot coverage from 39.83% to 43.85%. What we're looking to do is just install a simple patio, 300 square foot patio with a service walk to the only way that we're able to get into the yard, just to mitigate against muddy conditions, and as you'll see in some of the photos, what it looks like. The material, it would be stamped concrete, partially for cost reasons. I mean, we just spent a ton of money on moving in and a lot of the things that you need to do to furnish your home. And so stamped concrete seemed to be something that aesthetically looks great, but isn't super expensive. We did purchase the property, it probably goes without saying, but in its current condition. So we did not exceed the 35% lot coverage. That's what we inherited when we moved in. So we understand why those rules exist and the history. We're just looking to make a small addition. Is it up?
Maybe down.
Down.
Sorry.
It's all right. Just down. All right. So this is current condition. So just to kind of take a look at photos. The back, so that first photo that you're looking at where you see a grill in the distance, that's our garage. And so the back door to the garage is our only entry point or access point to get into the yard from the home. As you can see, there's a tremendous amount of wear right there by the door, where there's a lot of foot traffic coming in and going out. Next to that, the picture on the right is the backyard area as it exists today. Again, very beautiful space, just kind of missing something there on the ground. So some constraints, and I think what makes our situation a little bit unique, we're a corner lot. I knew nothing about setbacks, lot coverage until this whole process started. Honestly, I feel like I'm on a TV set right now because I've been watching your meetings for the last couple of months and learning about the setbacks and the engineering side of a lot of this. Our house, and we're, metaphorically and literally like backed into a corner because of that situation, and so the space to like build livable areas is pretty limited. Another thing that is unique is the fact that we're non-conforming in width. So corner lots should be, I believe, in the neighborhood of 70 to 75 feet. Our lot width is 64.5 feet. So we're already limited in the space that we have, and as it relates to lot coverage. So it's restrictive. And again, these 5 months ago, I would not have been able to present on this because I knew nothing about it. But today, realize what we're up against. These numbers here are not correct. These are typos. In my rush to get this presentation over to Scott, the square footage that you see on this slide is incorrect, but the percentage of lot is correct. So currently, we're at 39.83%. Which is actually 3,397 square feet. We're asking for a patio of 342 square feet, which would be an increase of 4% of lot coverage, as you do see in the slide. In total, it would get us to 43.85. I'm going to go back to here because there is an image of what we're asking for. So just to kind of put things in perspective, what that patio looks like, what those service walks would look like, where they'd be placed, just to make the space more livable. And this is our proposal for the hardscape, an 18 by 14 foot patio, 3 by 20 service walk that would get us to the garage. Would not extend all the way to the patio because we did want to limit the hardscape, the amount of the square footage there. But everything else is conforming. It's within setback boundaries, away from drainage easements. We're not taking any trees out, and there's absolutely no impact on the aesthetic to the neighbors. In reading some of the notes from the engineer, we are absolutely open to building a dry well and having that mitigate against whatever additional runoff that there is. I think the report said 3%, similar to the last case. And we're happy to coordinate with the team to make sure that it's within standards. So in closing, simple, but we're requesting a small improvement functionally to the home so that we can enjoy this backyard. We plan on being here for many, many, many years and want to do that in a happy backyard place.
Thank you.
Questions? Yeah.
Staff.
Thank you, Chair. So this property, it's 102 West Naperville Road. It is a corner property. as mentioned before. So they have a very similar circumstance as the previous lot coverage variance we just heard request. I'm not going to go into history again, so I don't have to speak more on it. I already provided that information. There are some differences between the previous one and this one, and they both should be representative on the uniqueness of the situation and the lot itself at hand. I just want to mention that because they're back-to-back cases. So similar to the last one, though, this property is in the R3 district, the single-family district. The maximum lot coverage allowed in that district is 35%. The property itself is already over that maximum. It has been for quite a while. It's an existing property. It goes back pretty far into the history, and they've had one major addition on the property from the previous owners. And the property likely exceeded the maximum at that time, even when it was 40%. With some of the improvements from the last owner, the most recent owner, they purchased the property and updated some things like the fencing that you've seen in the pictures. They repainted it, did work on the inside. And including some of those changes that the previous owner made, they removed some of the walkways around the property, and they changed the entrance, just that side door entrance near the driveway, and removed some of the walkways behind where you notice that in the pictures the grass is kind of dying in that area because there used to be a walkway there at one point. The previous owner removed a lot of that. I don't have an exact calculation about how much they removed, but they did remove some of the non-conforming. When we have properties that are non-conforming for lot coverage, generally the policy that we have at the staff level is they can remove and replace what's existing, but they can't add. So because they removed more than what they were adding, the previous owner, there was a net loss, and so they did not think of the new owner for any outdoor areas for the patio. So related to the request at hand today is due to some of those previous removals of the patio or the walkways that were previously there. The property now, as it exists, is at 39.83% for total lot coverage. Their request would bring it up to about 43.85%. Generally, when we have any requests based on numbers for variance, we try to go to the nearest whole number. So if this would be approved, we would ask that it be up to 44%, just in case math didn't work out in the end or if there were changes needed. The petitioner also noted something kind of unique about this property because it's an older property that was developed long ago and platted out long ago. The property itself does not meet our minimum lot width. The reason is not because of the 60-foot requirement in this district. That's what it states in the zoning code. We have a separate requirement for lots that are on corners for new subdivisions. That's in the land development code. And that particular requirement requires you to go 20% more of what would be required in the district. So that'd be 72 feet in the width. The reason I'm mentioning that is because if this property is platted with the current code, they would have substantially more buildable area and land area on their lot than compared to a property that was platted before those regulations were in place. So we would see normally for this type of property, we'd see about 9,000 square feet in area, similar to a lot of the downtown properties. Their square footage is only at 8,529 square feet. As noted, and as noted by the petitioner, the engineer provided some recommendations if the variance is approved, very similar to the previous one. One of them is a dry well to be installed to mitigate any of that anticipated increase in runoff that's generated by this. Another option is to do permeable pavers to reduce to provide mitigation, but obviously that has some maintenance to it. It is usually a bit harder to maintain in the long run. I'm open to any questions from the commission.
Thank you. Anyone from the public like to address the commission on this? Seeing none, let's go to the commissioners. Commissioner Simpson, would you like to start?
Sure. Scott, thanks for looking. I didn't even look at that. I was thinking the lot's a little bit wider than the other ones to the west, so I was thinking they're getting more than usual, but that's an interesting point. This isn't large enough, and they're asking for something that today they would have already been allowed if the lot would have been platted the right way by today. You maybe addressed it on one of these photos. Is the walkway just kind of stop and then it doesn't connect to the back patio?
Yeah, I question that too.
I'm just out of, is there any way to go back to the? Does he
In the
control it?
proposed
Yeah,
diagram, right?
Yeah, so if you go to the northwest area, right, you're doing a walkway, all the way in the top left, that's the area that was dead, right, with like, that was all brown?
Yeah,
This long narrow piece? Yeah, that was where it was dead, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want to connect that, the end of that sidewalk to the east? Sorry, the end of the sidewalk, yeah, to the rest of it?
So the reason that I didn't do it is because my math kept us under, so like the square footage that I would be asking for, the variance we'd be asking for,
Yeah.
stayed under a limit. Now, I'm doing math, just looking at this diagram and trying to figure out how do you do square footage. And so when I made the request, that's why it stopped, is because I didn't want to go over a number that I thought in my head, like 40%. Like I thought, okay, let's stop there. And then in the paperwork, as I was putting together the proposal, it said any changes, and then you have to go back and start over again. And we honestly really would like to have something completed this year. So that's the reason why. But it does get us functionally into the backyard. So it would work for us.
Okay.
That's the reason.
I
Might
just
be a
want to make sure,
terrible reason,
I
but-
thought maybe I was looking at it wrong, because I was like, maybe
Yeah.
I got turned around there, so.
Yeah, I was just trying to stay under a ceiling.
Okay.
Or a cap, basically.
Okay, and you're open to putting a drywall in? Or
Yes.
dry well in?
Absolutely.
Okay. I've got no questions, Commissioner.
Commissioner Donahue,
I'm good.
Commissioner Thomas?
I agree with what you've said, and that is a small backyard. I have no more questions. I supported your request.
Thank you. Commissioner Peterson?
I have a question, but I don't think it's for you. In the findings of fact, it states the owner proposes to install a modest patio using permeable pavers.
Great catch. I'm glad someone read the findings
Good.
of fact. And
Yeah.
Scott pointed out to me before the meeting that, while permeable pavers were discussed either in the applicant's document or in the staff report, that they're not planning a permeable paver
Okay.
patio,
It's stamped concrete.
stamped concrete. So that's a mistake.
I
in the
always
findings.
read these, John. That's why I was just confused. Other than that, I live in the neighborhood, I know the house, I know it would be terrible not to have a patio there. So that's all I have.
Same here. If the lot were 72 feet wide, you wouldn't be here. That extra 7 feet is what's creating those percentages. And I agree that if you're willing to put in a dry well, that should mitigate the situation. And you've already done a lot of improvements on the home, and we want to keep our residents happy. I support this. Any further comments from commissioners? Seeing none, then under PZC 0102025, I would support a motion to approve a zoning ordinance variance to 102 West Naperville Road for the maximum lot coverage in the R3 single-family detached residential district.
So moved, Thomas.
Second, well,
Go ahead.
Okay, second, Simpson. Did you want to?
just is it mandated that the dry well be added?
Opened up to discussion, so you can make that motion.
Okay.
If you want that to be added, then they can discuss.
Okay, you're making the motion,
Yes.
Craig.
I would like that
So,
added.
yes, I agree that the dry well is part of the motion. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion is discussed. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Donahue?
Yes?
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson votes yes, and Chairperson Carmichael?
Yes. So there you have it. Good luck with this, and stay in touch with Scott. Scott, you got a comment?
Yeah, I was gonna say it'll likely be on the July 24th village board meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next agenda item under new business, public hearing, PZC 012-2025, a request from Advocate Health and Hospitals Corporation for the property at 639 Blackhawk for the following: a zoning ordinance variance to the maximum height and area of directional signs in the B2 General Business District. Good evening.
Great, good evening. Thaddeus Inzak, I'm the director for our planning, design, and construction team. I was here with you guys back in March of 24 when we were coming for the approval of our new outpatient facility. I'm going to start with just a quick refresher of our project location. So we're at 639 Blackhawk Drive in Westmont. It's a B2's general business district, surrounded by restaurants and car dealerships and some industrial space as well. We bought 2 former restaurant properties and consolidated it into one. And we're currently building a 42,000 square foot facility with about 215 surface parking spots. The facility is going to offer primary care, OB, orthopedics, sports medicine, ICC, and some imaging rooms. We're currently under construction. Construction is slated to be completed towards the end of this year. We're actually projecting to open for business in December. We're really excited to bring our services to the community. And as part of that comes with some signage and wayfinding that we think is very important for our patients. And just to talk a little bit about the business model and who's coming to the facilities, I'm going to turn it over to Tammy to speak through that.
Good evening. I was also here in March, so it's great to be back again and to see you all. We're very excited about this facility. We do anticipate it'll be finished in terms of construction towards the end of November, first patient December 8th. We do anticipate we're going to see probably greater than 100 patients per day through this facility.
How many?
Greater than 100 patients per day. We anticipate about 30 to 40% of the patients we serve will be of the senior age population, which makes our request very important in terms of visibility for our signage. As mentioned, we do have plans for a variety of specialties, both primary care and medical specialties. We'll also have ancillary services such as ultrasound, mammography, x-ray. We'll have a lab, and we'll have physical therapy services as well. So it's very exciting, and we're anxious to get ourselves kicked off here towards the end of the year. We'll be open Monday through Friday, basically 365 days per year. There will be some evening hours and some weekend hours depending on the specialty within the facility. We do anticipate we'll be opening an orthopedic immediate care, so that immediate care will have those extended hours. Main access to our building is off Blackhawk, and the reason for that is it is a much shorter walk for our patients from the parking lot to the front door, which again, due to the age and the population of our patients, it makes it all the more important. So again, just a high-level overview based on what we talked about before in March, but certainly open to answer any questions. And then if not, I will turn it over to Zach.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Zach Reese. I'm the landscape architect on this project. Unfortunately, this won't be about pools or patios, but it's about signs, so figured might be good to switch up the topic a bit here. But in particular, what we're looking for is a variance request for the size of these signs. In the district that we're in now, in the B2 district, the requirements are that they can't exceed 5 square feet per side of that sign. And then really the complication that we have here is that the sign can't be taller than 3 feet. So imagine being in a larger SUV or pickup truck. If you're an older person coming here, having to kind of crane your neck to look down, that becomes challenging. So what we're actually looking for here is to increase these sign sizes to a max of 6 feet 6 inches in height, and then 9 square feet per sign size. This is a similar sign size that's already approved for use in other districts that have that medical use already, specifically the Office Research District. So Tammy said, kind of along what our reasoning here is that it's providing that if we were to have that max sign size, that 3-foot size is really kind of what you would see at a fast food or some other location where it's really just having an arrow pointing you towards a drive-through that a lot of people are familiar with already in terms of circulating around a site. With our site layout, it's a little bit more complicated than that. You have people trying to find where the drop-off is at. You have service people trying to drop off to the back of our building. You have a dumpster enclosure at the northeast side of the parking lot. So there's a lot more different varied circulation paths throughout the site that we have to contend with here. And then essentially what we're looking for here is to create an overall calm sense of calm for the patients that come to this facility. So people that are coming to the facility are already in obviously a concerned state of mind because they're seeking care. So we want to make sure that it's all around from coming off of Blackhawk to the site that it's as comfortable as possible. So in terms of some consideration items, this outpatient center is already in a non-residential corridor along Ogden that is primarily fast food outlets. There's an overlay district for automotive dealerships, and then there's light industry to the north and northwest. So these signs that we're looking for aren't, I guess, traditional for the surrounding business uses and the automotive uses. What we're looking for is to have a sign that is purely functional to get people to the drop-off, to the parking areas. We're not trying to use these larger signs to, I guess, advocate for the Advocate brand. So in terms of the actual standards for variations per the actual zoning code, the item 1 is that you can't yield a reasonable return based on this variance request. So if we were to go with these smaller signs, it has a high likelihood of slowing down the operations of the facility, especially when you have over 100 patients coming through the facility on a daily basis, raising safety concerns with conflicting traffic patterns within the site itself, and then undermining that patient experience, which will in turn weaken the facility performance overall. So the standard for variation B is to unique circumstances. So the unique circumstance about this is that while our sign size does exceed the requirements in the business district, like uses within that office research district in terms of medical uses, we would be within the allowable sign size for directional signs. And then the standard for variation C is really speaking to not altering that essential character of the locality. So the signs that we're proposing wouldn't be out of the ordinary for the automotive dealerships and the surrounding business uses. And we are back from the residential area, so it doesn't infringe on people's views from the residences. And again, just hitting home that point that these are intended to be fully functional, not promotional in any way. And then we have some images here of what these signs actually look like. So this is our first directional sign, and this would be the one right off of Blackhawk that is essentially trying to deconflict circulation coming to that northern access off of Blackhawk. We envision and we've planned that most of our access will come obviously off of the main intersection on Ogden to that southern entrance, because that kind of has more of a straight shot to the drop-off. Our second directional sign rendering is this one that kind of serves the dual purpose for limiting access to our service area. That would only be for deliveries or like paratransit or other back of house needs, not for the general public. So that's why it has a stop sign on the back. And that's kind of right on this corner here where you see that east-west smaller service drive. And then for our third sign, this one is the smallest by far, and this one really is to just direct deliveries where they should go. And this one is in the island near our trash enclosure to the northeast, and that's directing people away from where a majority of the staff and the patients will be parking, across the kind of the border of the parking lot to the delivery area. So we're, again, trying to deconflict those circulation patterns. And that's mostly it. So I'll open the floor for questions from the board. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone from the public like to address the commission on this? Scott, you have a comment?
Not after the
Or
public,
Adam.
but I'll give the staff comments for this request. I'll try to keep it brief as they give a very thorough presentation on what they're requesting tonight. As I mentioned last year, they received approvals to consolidate the properties into one and redevelop it as an advocate outpatient center. They're requesting a variance to both the maximum sign area and height for directional signs. Now, this is a type of exempt signage, meaning that it doesn't count towards the overall sign area for both the wall and ground signs, nor does it count towards the maximum number of signs. Though it is exempt, it does still have to meet the following height and area of 5 square feet in area and 3 feet in height. As he explained, they have 3 different styles, 2 of which are over the maximum area and all 3 are over the maximum height, hence the variance request. I also want to point out, as he mentioned in the site plan, only 1 is at an entrance off of Blackhawk Drive, and then the other 2 are going to be internal to the site. And the petitioner also pointed out in their narrative that the Office Research District allows for larger signs that go up to 6 feet in height and 9 square feet in area. The OR district is allowed this allowance because they often have larger office complexes with multiple buildings and or multiple entrances that are meant to help navigate patrons and employees through those larger developments. Since this property is zoned B2, it is not afforded that larger size. And the findings of fact have been provided. I'm happy to go over them if anyone would like. If not, that's all I have for staff.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, anyone from the public like to address the commission? Sorry, got that out of order. Seeing none, we'll go to the commissioners, and Commissioner Donahue, you want to start?
I don't have any questions. I used to live on Blackhawk, just south of Ogden there, right across from the Standard Market entrance, and I moved because people would fly, and I had a young son down Blackhawk to hit that light every day. And I'm very happy in the new house, but, you know, I just... 100 more patients a day, you know, or 700 more, you know, cars per week. It just makes me a little concerned for the families on Blackhawk. I know that's not what we're talking about, but I'd feel remiss if I didn't mention, you know, like more traffic on Blackhawk isn't necessarily a good thing with people trying to hit that light is all. But no questions in regards to the sign.
Okay. Commissioner Thomas?
These signs are going to be on your property for your people. They're not for the public. They're to direct your clientele to where they want to go, whether they're service or patients and that, and I support it 100%. Thank you.
Mr. Peterson?
The older I get, the more I like clarity. So these signs will be great. I have no comments or questions.
Mr. Simpson?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if this were OR district, I mean, it's only because you're located in the B district that you're here, and it's absolutely rational, logical request. Given that, under PZC 012-2025, Chair would entertain a motion to approve this request by Advocate Health for 639 Blackhawk for a zoning ordinance variance to increase the maximum sign area and height of directional signage in the B2 General Business District.
Motion Simpson?
I have a motion Simpson,
Second, Thomas.
second Thomas. Discussion, questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson votes yes. Commissioner Donahue?
Yes.
And Chairperson Carmichael?
Yes. So thanks for coming. Good luck with your signs. Good night. So, we're opening in target date of December. Okay, next agenda item is PZC 013-2025, a request by Chicago Lightworks Limited Liability Corporation doing business as Chicago Lightworks, the petitioner, and 1133 Cleveland Properties doing business as Oakmont Tech Center, the owner, regarding the property at 600 Oakmont Lane, Suite 600 in Westmont, for a special use permit to operate business offices with accessory uses of warehousing, distribution of materials, goods, or products in the OR Office Research District. Good evening.
Good evening. It's nice to meet you in person, Adam. We've been corresponding over email. My name's Julie Blankenheim, and I'm one of a three-person owners partnership that owns Chicago Lightworks. Was here to tell you, and we're the fifth after a long night, so I'll try to keep this short. I wanted to tell you a little bit about who we are and our business model, and I want to definitely be specific around what the special use permit request is, because we certainly are not distributing products out of our facility. So who are we? Who are we at Chicago Lightworks? So I'll give you a little bit of intro as who we are, how we do our business, what a lighting agency is, and what our market is, and then tell you a little bit about why we're excited to come to Westmont. We're currently in Lisle. So to us, this is a bigger footprint, something to really expand our business for the future, for the foreseeable future, for 11 years, right? Is that our lease guy? Guy is our, Guy Bonneville is our landlord, basically, helping us with the build out. So he's here to support. So who are we? So Chicago Lightworks, we are a lighting agency, and we founded our roots in Lisle in 2017. Our leadership between the three of us owners, we have over 30 years of experience talking about lighting and selling lighting to the Chicago metro marketplace. We call on lighting designers, interior designers, electrical engineers, architects, landscape architects, he left, and end users to promote the 120 brands that we represent. We come from backgrounds. My background is lighting design and interior design. My business partner, Mike, who is not here, he's with his daughter at a club basketball tournament in Kentucky right now. His background is he was a general manager for a Fastenal distribution facility. And my other business partner, Erin Murphy, she grew up on the South Side, and she got her start in lighting distribution as well. But we've all come together to form what a lighting agency for the Chicago market. Who are we? We have 63 people on staff. These are our core values. And forget the third one. I don't want to offend anybody, but we are gutsy, we are good people, we get stuff done, we are grounded, and we are geeky geniuses. And so this truly tells you a little bit about who we are. We have an entrepreneurial spirit. We've been in business almost 8.5 years now, exactly 8.5 years, and we're growing like mad. We believe in transparency, reliability, consistency, and responsibility. And essentially, what we do as a lighting agency, as a lighting sales agency, is we go out to our customer bases, which again are the people we listed, the lighting designers, the interior designers, the architects, the electrical contractors, the electrical distributors, and the general contractors. And we talk to them about what are their lighting needs, how can any of our brands fulfill that, how can we help provide them lighting solutions. And we really truly live by these pillars of what we believe in our core values. Just a little bit more about who we are. Again, we call on all sides of the market, the specifiers and the contractors who install the products. This is what, and to explain a little bit about what a lighting agent is. We don't make fixtures. We do not stock lighting fixtures. We simply represent 120 lighting manufacturers, and we go to the market and we give them, so on the architectural side, we try to educate them and give them solutions. On the general contractor side, we go to them to sell them solutions and get them to buy the products for the built environment that we represent. As a lighting agent, we honestly, to dumb it down, we simply push paper. And so lighting companies, such as our largest lighting company that we represent is called Signify, which is the former Philips Lighting. So if you can think about it, Philips Lighting cannot have a sales force in every single city all across the globe. They need representatives to represent them. So it is a variable model of cost for them instead of a fixed cost. Rather than having Philips employees everywhere in the globe, they have representatives that only get paid if they sell something. Does that make sense? So we don't actually have any of the transactional side of it. We get paid if we sell something. This is how lighting procurement works in our market. So here we are again, we have lighting manufacturers. They give us the pricing, they give us samples or examples of what they want, what they're manufacturing. We go out to the market, we talk about their brands, we drag these samples out and we show people, and we will plug in a light fixture, whether it's decorative or functional. We even sell 2x4s. But after that, we then would accept a paper order or an electronic order, and the distributors purchase the material. The distributors receive the material. We don't handle any of it. We are simply the go-between, the lighting manufacturer and the people that are actually buying the equipment. So why do we exist, and why do we need a really big office in Westmont? We have, again, 65 people, half of which come to the office every day. They work in project management, they work in quotations, they work in the design and the engineering side of our business. We have HR, we have finance, we have marketing, and we have a lot of office support staff that support our salespeople on the road. These are just a few photographs of who we are. Upper left, that's our current office with some of the lighting that we sell that lights our space. It doesn't really show very well, but we're kind of cramped. The lower left-hand side is our conference room and our training center. The lower right is one of our boardrooms with a lot of our people having a meeting. And the upper right is a snapshot of a cramped sample room, a sample storage space. And that's why we're here today, is because in our new facility at 600 Oakmont, get the address right, we need a bunch of storage. And so what we have on our plans is between 4,000 to 5,000 feet of storage. And it truly is going to be rackable shelving with soft side, almost luggage case type of material that we will have a lot of because we have a lot of fixture samples. The lighting fixture samples are not electrified, and it is just a lot of soft back cases, backpacks, larger Pelican cases, and storage for the products that we sell. And so, based on the plans that we have submitted, it has been told to us that we need a special permit because there is this back side of the office is a huge storage area, and there is a roll-up door. But really the roll-up door we're going to enjoy for our sedans and SUVs to pull up and load up our samples and to be able to have easy access to the equipment that we're trying to demonstrate. In addition, we have a lot of office supplies and things of that nature that we will store back there. So we're here today just to tell you a little bit about our business and why we need to talk to you about this special use permit and explain to you that we are truly not, there are no big trucks arriving. There are FedEx trucks and UPS trucks that will show up to deliver these boxes that have samples. But we are truly not a retail establishment. We are not storing, we are not distributing, and really no trucks larger than a box truck would be frequenting the back roll-up door. So that's a little bit about us. I'm open to questions, and do you have any thoughts about the business model?
Thank you.
Sure.
Have comments.
Great, thank you, Chair. So yes, the petitioner is requesting a special use permit to operate their administrative office for their lighting agency with accessory warehousing for the storage of the lighting samples. Of course, this property is zoned Office Research District, so the office component is of course permitted, but it is this accessory warehouse that is requiring the special use permit approval. As Julie explained, they intend to use their unit for their day-to-day operations of general office functions, including meeting spaces, the training center for their employees, the showroom for the lighting fixtures, and of course the warehousing for storing these fixtures. Their hours of operation will be standard from 8 to 5 p.m. on weekdays, and they anticipate about up to 70 employees on site. About a third of those will be in sales and not in the office every single day. The ability to request a special use permit for accessory warehousing was created in a 2022 text amendment to the zoning ordinance. So this amendment allowed for property owners in the OR district that have these kind of atypical spaces that have drive-in doors, storage areas like that, to solicit users that could take advantage of those spaces better than a traditional office would. Prior to this text amendment, accessory warehousing would not have been allowed in this district. Similar special use permits have been approved at this property. So Midwest Mechanical was approved in 2023. They're in Suite 650. And then 1440 Event Design downstairs in Suite LL was approved by the Village Board last fall. The proposed warehouse will store the lighting samples to support the in-house showroom as well as the sales team when they're going on their calls. The petitioner does not have a fleet of vehicles. It's employees using their own personal vehicles to go out on the calls. And there is not any outdoor storage being proposed, nor would it be allowed in this district. The warehouse will be accessed through the existing drive-in door on the north side of the building and will be walled off from the rest of the office. At about 4,200 square feet is what was shown in the site plan submitted. That is going to take up less than 18% of the overall 23,000 square foot unit. This is below the 25% maximum that accessory warehousing is allowed to take up. So they're compliant with that regulation. So the special use permit request for warehousing accessory to their business office is overall compliant with the requirements of the zoning ordinance as well as the recommendations of the comprehensive plan, and is subject to the standards of special use permit approval. Again, the findings of fact have been provided to you. I can go over them if needed. If not, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Anyone from the public? Seeing none, let's go back to the commissioners. Greg, you want to start?
Sure. So you don't have customers coming in and looking around and buying electricals. All your people are taking them.
Yes.
They're going to the customer.
Yes.
So there's no traffic other than your own people.
I would be remiss if I wouldn't say that there may be times when we might have an open house where our customers can come visit us, but they are not shopping for light fixtures. Right. Correct.
Because that wouldn't be allowed.
Yes. No.
That's all I have.
Correct.
Okay.
I have no questions or comments. I love when new people come into town, and so good luck.
Our people are already searching for restaurants to go to.
Oh, and we have quite a few.
So, yes.
Good. Well, you're real close to that 700 sandwich shop.
Yeah, the
right
deli.
in the next building. You'll like that. Commissioner Simpson.
Familiar with your location in Lisle? I think you guys will be a great addition to Westmont.
Thank you.
Commissioner Donahue.
Yeah, thank you, staff, Adam, for the explanation, and no questions here. Good luck.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
I got a couple questions. When you've grown from 19 to 63 employees very rapidly, so you obviously have found a very successful niche. What percentage of that 63 are sales force?
We are roughly a 1 to 2 ratio of sales, so that's a bad way to say it. It's about 52% is sales,
About
outside sales.
2/3
Yeah.
are sales. And they will come in their own automobiles, or their own cars, and they'll go back to your warehouse area and they'll pick the samples that they need to go to the potential customers that they're gonna, and then at the end of the day or the next day, they'll return those. And so, be an interesting inventory control system.
Yeah, trafficking salespeople is a pain. So, yes.
No, that's, it sounds a very, very interesting business concept, and same way.
Never a dull
Welcome.
moment. We're
Get a
excited.
positive vote here. Any further discussion, commissioners? Seeing none, let's get to a vote under PZC 0132025, this request by Chicago Lightworks for the special use permit to operate business offices with accessory uses of warehousing, distribution of materials, goods, or products in the OR Research District. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
I have a motion O'Donohue to approve,
Second Simpson.
and a second Simpson. Discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson votes yes. Commissioner Donahue?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Chairperson Carmichael?
Yes. Well, there you go. And,
Thank you. We're excited
welcome
to
to Westmont.
Thank
And,
you.
Scott will,
Yeah, it'll likely be the
For Adam.
July 24th village board meeting.
Okay, we will be here. Thank you all. Good night.
certainly. Okay, that's it for new business. Under open forum, is there anyone here who would like to address the commission on any issue that was not on tonight's agenda? Good evening.
You win.
My name is Laurel Rugen. I live at 513 North Grant Street. I just have a question. I probably
Did
should
you
have.
sign in?
I signed in out
Good,
there.
thank you.
Just a question about people when they're building new houses. Is there like an allotment of space, how close they can be to each other? There's a brand new house that it was a tiny, skinny little lot that had a big tree in the front. And it's one of the mega monster types. And I even checked the driveway. I measured it. It's the edge of one driveway to one house to this one. It's like 3 feet. It's the same on the other side. I was just, isn't there some kind of ordinance of how close these houses can be?
Absolutely.
Yes, and for driveways, it's different than the actual structure of a new house.
I figured that.
So
but-
for a house, it's 6 feet from the property line. We typically, for zoning purposes, I'm not going to talk about fire buildings, I don't know their codes.
Yeah.
From the property line, for the driveway, it is 3 feet to that property line.
Okay,
That's the
because like
minimum.
in between, it's like there's that
Yeah.
driveway, tiny little strip of grass, same on the other side. It's just off of Naperville Road on Grant. I think it's 301. It's on the east side. Because if I were one of the people living in the houses on the other side of this thing, I would be having a spaz. I'd be freaking out. Because it's huge. And it's like I said, it was a tiny little lot. It was like I could see putting a storage shed or something. But it's like, I don't understand why this is allowed like that. I mean, it's like you're living in the city or something. And I just see it too also as like, if there were like a fire hazard or something, you know, it would just, I mean, it's okay with the village to be building things that close and that high and everything else.
All I'll say is, as long as it's within the, I know we can only talk about the zoning. aspect.
Yeah, I know, with the continuing.
So if is meets the zoning code minimums and maximums. We permit it through permitting. If it goes above any of those maximums, like we had those lot coverages earlier, then they would
Right.
have to come in and request anything, and there would be a public
Okay.
hearing just like this. Everybody can voice their opinion.
Okay.
But if they're within the zoning ordinance, they have the right to utilize their property, just as everybody else does for those aspects.
Wow.
What I will mention to you, and it'll be on my miscellaneous items, is we have the zoning ordinance update. We have a meeting on July 23rd where
Yes,
you
I
can
saw
voice that as well, and the commission can take that as they need.
Yeah, I was just curious because I'm like, oh my word, you're kidding me. You know, it's not any of the, well, more quaint houses that used to be more in Westmont. And, well, I've been here 40 years, so. But it's like, and then just, this thing's just on top of these two houses on either side, and it's just like, and
Was
there's.
there another house on the lot before?
No, it was just a skinny little lot between two houses. There was a big tree. And that's it. So it was like, wow, you know, they're real good at squeezing these things in, aren't they? Okay, I was just curious, so, because it's just kind of ridiculous in my book to have something like that and out of proportion with like the rest of the neighborhood and everything. So,
Well, thank you.
okay, thank you.
We appreciate you coming forward like this.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Good evening.
My name is Brian Schuring. I'm at 5719 Buck Court, and I signed in up front. I will be out of town during the next special meeting about the new zoning ordinance, so I hope you won't mind if I just share a commentary tonight about that. Westmont recently celebrated Independence Day with fireworks, food trucks, games, and music. There is one more way we can commemorate the day our nation freed itself from a tyrant. Let's free Westmont from the tyrant's veto, as it is known colloquially online, and you can Google it and see. I'm referring to section 14.2 G1A, which states that a protest petition will be deemed valid if it is signed and acknowledged by the owners of 20% of the frontage proposed to be altered. You can't win an election with 20% of the vote, but if I wanted to rezone my property, it would take only one spiteful neighbor to disrupt, delay,
Can I
or even
interrupt?
derail. What?
That's a state statutory provision that the village has restated in its code of ordinances. So the village didn't create that provision allowing a statutory objection. Or allowing an objection, it's in state statute.
So we would have to do like Texas did at a state level to raise
Have
it.
to
if we-
petition your state legislatures to amend the statute.
I see.
And all that does is trigger a higher vote to approve a rezoning.
Okay. So we'd have to, okay, so take it to the state representative then.
Correct.
Take it from there. Okay. And then it will come back down, hopefully.
Yeah.
We can fight for it. Okay. All right, well, that was like my only point I had. So good luck next week, or at least, was it 23rd? So see you guys later.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
An interesting point. That Glad you were able to. See, this is why we have the village attorney here.
I learned something new, so.
Yeah, so if 20% of the owners of frontage file a petition properly, it just triggers a supermajority vote by the village board to approve a rezoning. And that's in the state statute, Article 13, dealing with zoning.
That's the same if a municipality objects, right, in a certain area?
That is if something's, I think, pending in the county.
Gotcha. But
And the
not
municipality objects, it can trigger a
Got it.
supermajority vote by the county.
But not here in Westmont?
No.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay. Under miscellaneous general updates, our next meeting would be 2 weeks from tonight at 6 p.m. Special meeting for the zoning ordinance text amendments. And our next regular meeting a month from now will be on Wednesday, the 13th of August. Anybody else have anything before?
Chair Carmichael, if I might add,
Please.
at the next meeting for the special zoning ordinance update, we're going to be presenting the new draft language. So for the commissioners, and I'll go to camera too for those that aren't here. If you want to return your empty binder back to staff during our business hours, we can hole punch it and then deliver it to you, so that way you don't have to do it on your own. So if you're able to get it to us, we can do that service for you. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can we get it delivered, or can we come just pick up just the changes instead of having it in? Because then I got to go through the whole thing, whereas I could just see kind of what changed.
If you don't provide us the binders, we'll just basically give you a binder clipped version, and we'll hole punch it for you, but you'll have to put it in.
Got it.
We're running out of binders. We've used a lot
But I
recently.
think his question was, can he just get the pages that have
Being
been
changed.
edited,
Right.
as opposed to the entire ordinance again?
I think we want you, because of some of the rearrangement of it, my guess is it's not going to perfectly align like that because we're adding language. So
And I guess a question would be, will there be a staff, I don't know if you'd have time to even prepare like an outline of here's the sections that were
yeah, so
amended?
the plan is to have that, a staff version, very similar to what we had in the initial staff report, where it highlights the revisions and where they are in the code, so you can have something to reference.
Red line, blue line type, yeah.
But that document shouldn't be viewed as an absolute, because we had a lot of minor changes, like one word changes, like an a versus an of type of thing. That doesn't change the meaning of it, but it's just a typo.
But the changes will be shown in like.
In a different color, yeah.
Different color, so.
Red ink. Perfect. Okay.
I have one more thing.
Yes, sir.
Everybody should have got an email regarding APA, the American Planning Association chapter meeting for training on the one day. I don't remember the exact day. But if you are able to respond and know that you're available and want to go, please respond to Jamie Hoffman, our administrator's email.
I think I saw October 7th.
I believe it's Thursday, October 9th. So that'll be from
It starts
8
on
to
the
12. It's also the day after our regularly scheduled October PCC meeting. So if you want a week full of planning and zoning, sign up.
And it's in Chicago. Last year, Matt and I took the train in. And it's really convenient. But I intend to go, and so if anyone wants to carpool or go on the train, I highly recommend it for anyone who hasn't been before.
That's a village reimbursement up to a certain amount for the signing up for the conference. And if you have anything, we give you the whole agenda, so if there's anything you want to go to that is not that exact training, we can try to figure that out as well.
You gonna go?
I gotta see if I can get it, rearrange something.
Anyone have anything else? In that case, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Simpson?
Second.
Second, Donahue. Discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. This meeting is adjourned at 8:16. We'll call it 8:17.
That was the